Hi, my name is Teresa, Teresa's Crafty Cabana. I want to welcome you if you're new to my channel. And for my crafty friends who've been following along all this time, thank you and welcome back. And to all of my new subscribers, welcome to my channel, and I hope you find some things that interest you as you're watching me jelly print or make my crafts. So what we're going to work on today is a jelly print that you can turn into a piece of artwork. To start with, we are going to make sure we have a clean jelly plate. I had some leftover paint on my plate from my last print, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to use to clean it. Now this is new for me. I'm using beeswax mineral oil rub. This I got to use on your cutting boards and charcuterie, but I thought this might be a good thing to try on my jelly plate. I don't really have a charcuterie board or anything, and I wanted to see if this would work to clean off these extra pieces of paint. I've used baby oil in the past. It makes it pretty greasy, which is okay, oily. This one I've not tried before. I've also not tried Murphy's oil that I know some people have used on their jelly plate to clean them. So I'm just going to go through. I've got a microfiber cloth that I'm using, a clean one. And I'm just going through and kind of loosening up all of the paint pieces, especially along the edges. That's where my paint seems to stick on my jelly plate. And as I'm going along, if the cloth becomes saturated or full of those little paint speckles, I just kind of keep moving my cloth piece to a clean spot. Now I'm not worried about those little specks of paint being on my jelly plate, because they're kind of loose, and I'll show you what I'm going to do to pick up and remove those. I just added some paint onto my jelly plate. This is my 8 by 10 inch jelly plate, and I have a 6-inch brayer here, and I'm just taking some gold paint in this case just to put any kind of, it doesn't matter which paint you use at this point, craft paint, clear paint, colored paint, it really doesn't matter. What you want to do is have a nice thin layer. Then go ahead and line up. This is just copy paper. This is like the cheapest paper that I have, so I just use this to kind of clean off my plate. What you want to do is just let this, make sure it's on there really good. Let it sit for about 10 minutes and then remove that print, and you can see it's got all those little specks of paint that pull up with this kind of print, and that kind of cleans your plate. Now if you like the look of those specks on your next print, you can certainly leave it. Sometimes I do like to leave the buildup, but in this case I was looking to make a more artwork style piece, something that I would put in a frame. The last video that I made with the blue stripes, I got a lot of comments that perhaps I could use that as a piece of artwork, which I agree. The intention for making that one was more of like a card base. So for this one, I wanted to specifically make it as a piece of art. My husband did request that I make something that he could put into a frame and put on his desk, something that he thinks that I would like. And these colors, I know he loves blue, so I knew I wanted to start with a blue base. I did add a little white. These are transparent paints, the golden fluid acrylics, and I wanted to make sure that the colors kind of popped out from each other versus blended into each other. So that's why I put just a little bit of white in there. If you want them to blend a little more or like layer on top of each other, you don't want to add the white because it'll keep its transparency. So what I do to add texture is I picked out some of my embossing folders that I really liked that reminded me of my husband. Some of these I already had pre-made, but I just embossed a piece of 110 pound Nina White cardstock, and you can see I can use those over and over as textures. So I've got this really cool clock one that I've used a lot. Once the paint is so built up that I can't really remove the paint on the gel plate as easily, I'll usually throw those away and start with a fresh one. Like this one right here, I had one that was so built up that it wasn't cleanly removing the the impression anymore. So you can use these for quite a while, the embossed cardstocks, but after too much paint builds up, I do tend to start over because you get a much crisper transfer of whatever the design is. And so this is kind of a technique that I really like to use, is just putting little pieces of my cardstock designs on the gel plate, just trying not to get any of the harsh lines. You can see I'm holding my cardstock at a little bit of a curve. Then I make some other homemade kind of impressions. This is just from I think it's an orange wrapper or something similar. And I just taped it onto a piece of cardboard, and that way I can kind of press it. Now this one does give a little bit of harsh lines, which is fine. It all depends on how hard you're pressing and that sort of thing. This is another homemade texture using drywall tape on one end, and I had removed some of the cardboard to reveal like stripes, so I use that sometimes too. In this case, I'm only going to use the drywall tape side. Another homemade one, these are foam. It's got sticky back foam, and I cut out die cuts that I have, and the side that I'm using has like little stars and dots, and I think that those are really fun to add as a kind of additional layer of a texture. So the nice thing is you can just kind of go through your stash in between embossing folders, die cuts, using foam, using paper, it doesn't matter. You can just kind of get a wide variety of impressions, textures. So next we're going to do some gold flakes. I have these rainbow flakes and then just some gold ones. I wanted to try the rainbow ones. I actually hadn't tried them yet. I got these at Michael's, and these are really pretty neat once I opened them up to see what the rainbow part of it was. They're almost like they're heated and they start showing different colors. Like it goes from gold to like a copper color and a little bit of a bluish green. So it is pretty neat how these little rainbow flakes look. And what I'm trying to do is just get some of those flakes to show on the jelly plate. So wherever I removed that texture, and keep in mind I did let my blue paint dry completely before doing this. If you do it while it's wet, you're going to smear it. So just make sure it's dry. And then I just started putting little gold flakes and colorful flakes wherever I could see that it was going to show to the other side where the gel plate was. I'm just doing some spots, and every time I poured them down, I just pressed them in. Next, I'm going to kind of seal those flakes with some of my colors. So the colors that I'm putting behind the blue, I'm going to start with this yellow. It's a medium yellow. And then I just use my 2-inch brayer and very gently roll over those flakes. You just want to be careful not to over roll. Some of them will come up on your brayer, which I'm not worried about. I brayer some of them off, some of them kind of stay on there. But I'm just slowly trying to give a layer on top so that it'll stick to my final layer, which will ultimately pull up my print. So just going in with my lightest color first, the yellow, then I'll bring in some orange. And I love having orange with blue because of course they're contrasting colors, and it really helps with the pop of color behind the blue there. I think the yellow and the orange also look great against purple. So those are kind of like my favorite ones to make sure I'm having some drama on my artwork or my print. So slowly I can blend some of these colors together as well, being careful not to over brayer because I don't want to remove too many of those flakes. And I had gotten this alizarin crimson. I had a magenta in my stash, but I really wanted a red color. And so I have this. This is also transparent, the alizarin crimson. And this goes really great with the orange and the yellow, but it also is a nice color to almost make a purple color with the blue. So it's just a really pretty red. I want to add a green in here, but I don't want my green to turn into mud with the red. So what I'm doing is adding a little yellow as a buffer to the green. So I'll blend my green out at the top here. And then to blend my green into the other colors, I'm just blending it with that yellow. And now I've got a nice variety of colors. My flakes are starting to remove, so I'm just going to stop there. I have a fan that I put on my artwork, on my jelly plate, so that it can dry completely in between layers here. So I'm just letting this layer dry all the way. Any loose flakes also kind of blow away with the fan. And once it's completely dry, I went in with my Titan buff. And here I'm just going to do the same thing, just slowly go over, because some of those flakes are still a little bit loose. I don't want to remove too many of them, so I'm just putting a decent amount of paint because it has to kind of go over those flakes and pull up all the rest of the print. And once I feel like I have nice coverage over the flakes and over the paint on the gel plate, then I'll go ahead and get ready to add my piece of paper. So the paper that I'm using today is a very thick one because this is going to be a piece of artwork. I'm not using my traditional copy paper or 110-pound cardstock. This one is 140-pound cardstock. I'll link in the description which one I use. I got mine from Amazon. It's a nice, very hefty size to it. Like, it feels sturdy, so I like that about this when I'm trying to make a piece of artwork. I feel like it just pulls up nice and bright. This is a bright white color, so it does a great job at transferring. And the same thing here, so you want to make sure this dries for a good amount of time. I let mine dry for about 35 to 40 minutes. And you can see even after that long, some of those little flakes kind of stick on the gel plate. I wasn't too concerned about that because for the most part I got what I was looking for. I wanted a little variety in my texture, variety in my colors, and I wanted some pops of the shininess from those flakes, and I did get that in my final piece here. And you can see with those textures and then the pop of color, the blue just really set against the colors in the background. It really pops out and it looks so eye-catching in real life, especially when you kind of tilt it and you can see all the gold flecks in there. So this will be something that I will find a nice frame for and I'll put in my husband's office per his request. And I think the colors they're so happy. I love the golden fluid colors too. They're just such bright, pretty colors. If you've never tried the golden fluid acrylics, you might want to start with a starter pack. I'll put a link in the description below. I got mine originally from Michael's. They also sell them on Amazon, but it comes with about 8 or 10 colors for your starter, and they're really great colors to start with. Here's what it looks like, just kind of if it were to be framed. It doesn't quite fit this frame, so I just kind of put it on there so you can kind of get the idea of what a framed piece of jelly print would look like. So that finishes out my video. Thanks for being here and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, happy crafting, y'all.